You might have heard of it, the Cold War, when the Soviet Union, the US, France, and Britain built out their nuclear arsenals. This guy, Robert McNamara, coined the term mutually assured destruction, or MAD. That's what has driven the world's superpowers to spend trillions of dollars and counting to assure they can destroy the other first. So far, so good, right? There may not have been a nuclear war, but there have been unspoken casualties. Or as they call it back in command control, collateral damage. And the mayor of Bikini Atoll, Anderson Jebus, where the US tested some of its nuclear weapons, is reminded of this every day.
The people of Bikini have not returned to their homeland. 73 years. We are still victims of this nuclear age. And my plot is to tell the whole world.
Yes, life is simple and beautiful on Bikini Atoll. Until today.
On the water, you can see the shockwave coming toward the camp. Watch those palm trees in the foreground.
You have to look really hard on a map to find the Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands. The series of tiny dots in the Pacific Ocean located halfway between Hawaii and Australia. Most people have no idea where it is and the sacrifices its people have made.
We lived here for thousands of years before the Europeans found us. American missionaries came. Germans claimed us, and then the Japanese enslaved us. Our islands became a battleground for the American and the Japanese. We were caught in the crossfire. But it was the atomic bomb that changed our lives forever.
Crossroads, scene 24, take 1.
Go ahead and hook that one.
All right, Commodore.
All right, now, James, tell them that the United States government now wants to turn this great destructive force into something good for mankind.
All
right, now, you have told them about our plan.
Cut. Crossroads, scene 25, take 1.
All right, now, James, will you tell them that the United States government... All set here.
Crossroads, scene 26, take 2.
All right, now, James, will you tell them that the United States government now wants to attempt to turn this great destructive force into something good for mankind, and that these experiments here at Bikini are the first step in that direction?
bagay na kayo rawale. Yung kana, pay kami ang rutora, kami ang siyap kanin, malalakaki minakon. Kami siya tao, winayar ka mo naman yung anak.
Hindi lang ang Rongerik. And they're willing to go, and everything is God's hand. Well, you tell them in King Judah that everything being in God's hands, it cannot be other than good.
When asked to give up Bikini, Judah said, "Men of them original pain ani. Everything is in God's hand. But you really put the Bikinians in Americans' hands."
Everything was documented for audiences back home. Newsreels were made, a pictorial record was published, scientific surveys detailed huge coral reefs and colorful tropical fish. They even baked a cake.
It's kind of sugarcoating its image as it goes in. There was a lot of that gee whiz factor of, boy, if you're friends with us, look how wonderful it's going to be. I think it was very manipulative. I think every aspect of it was extremely manipulative.
The U.S. government promised us we want to learn about nuclear weapons and we want to testing on your island. And we can return you after we're finished and we will make sure you're okay. Why would you do that to the small tribe and take away their most valuable gift from God?
I just feel like we were used because I can't imagine how they were able to understand the language and being forced into what they were about to get themselves into without knowing about the damage that was about to happen.
Lawanin dawdawani tak wayan wawarolot. Kami dukuni malawiyan ang kroma yala bijen. Kami yung mga jen beginning ang Rongerik jangan kroma yawan.
With Bikini emptied, the Americans set up shop.
I wanna be happy.
Those coral reefs and colorful tropical fish? Yep, they blew them to bits.
For this was virgin land, and as always, since man first entered a wilderness, tangled and matted vegetation must be removed for working space, for elbow room. The surface is then rearranged into new patterns as machines first dig up, then level the coral soil. But simple flattening alone is not enough. Cement and tar are added to form a hard, level surface. Islands of our atoll now begin to assume the character of gigantic tabletops, bowing to the engineer's exacting transit.
When a mushroom cloud has changed every rule, it's deep in our thinking at home and at school. Peace, peace, peace. Where did you go? Where did you go? We pray.
42,000 military, including scientific personnel, move in, transforming Bikini into a home away from home.
Try not to think of romance we're in. I cling to my baby, and she clings to me. We talk of the future, but what do we see? There's a mushroom cloud that hangs in the way. Tomorrow looks black, so we live for today. Peace, peace, peace. Where did you go? Where did you go? Oh, peace, peace, peace. Where did you go? Where did you go?
Hello, Major General Luton, Canada. Dr. Alexandra from Russia. Dr. Major Rukov.
The world was invited to witness Operation Crossroads. Military leaders, scientists, and reporters.
Dr. Bienkowski of Poland.
Even Bikinian King Judah was brought back to watch his island being nuked. Operation Crossroads was supposed to be 3 nuclear bomb tests. Abel was the first.
Crossroads, scene 1, take 1, A-day burst, USS Panamint.
At Bikini, the Navy is preparing itself for the failure of the UN Atomic Energy Commission. On one hand, we're striving to save the world of a weapon which may set back civilization for centuries. On the other hand, we're training ourselves in the use of this very weapon. So we strive to save civilization, and we learn how to wreck it. All the same weekend. Racewing reporting.
Melagan, why when you are about you chuan palm, you on Bikini, where Randale, Kayuri, Renai, Tarinai, Penai, and Kan, in the Judo palm. And when you nan through the yard palm and give me. Rar children to way, rar children to way, but I intend drain you palm, your hiding. Okay, you know, why when Piao are coming in, we don't get palm. Oh, you know, Canarium Canan Catalog. Any Winker Canarium Canan Catalog. Canar Canan ready, I don't know, by current Jokoman Milo, Kim Jay, where we're Canarjuron Lodi.
The world's response to 23 kilotons of nuclear power? A big shrug. the U.S. hoped for a bigger payoff from their second test, this time underwater.
Effects of the blast was a tremendous bubble of water and steam that broke the ocean surface. Then, a huge wave over 90 feet high rolled over the target and support vessels, as well as the islands of the atoll. Vast quantities of radioactive debris from the blast rained down on the target and support ships, islands, and lagoon. This unexpected outcome caused contamination. Dr. Glenn T. Sieber, Chair, U.S. Atomic Energy Commission.
It was so disastrous, President Truman canceled the third test. Operation Crossroads was over.
We must be fully prepared to protect our national security promptly and effectively in the event that we are attacked. We must defend ourselves against this new and elemental force or be destroyed by it. This is Crossroads.
Back to Washington comes Vice Admiral William H.P. Blandy. The man who directed the 2 atom bomb tests in Bikini Atoll is here to report. In his first statement to the press, the Admiral sounds a somewhat ominous note.
The Bikini tests, especially the second test, in which an atomic bomb was exploded underwater, have shown that the bomb is not only the most powerful, but the most insidious weapon which ever could be used, especially in naval warfare. I sincerely trust that a practical plan acceptable to all nations can be adopted to outlaw it. But if this is not done, at least the Crossroads operation will have given the United States extremely valuable information which should make her better prepared for atomic naval warfare than any other nation.
Whether or not the atom bomb is to be used as a weapon of war rests with other nations of the world, not with Uncle Sam.
There wasn't enough water on Rongerik. The fish were poisonous. People were starving. And they realized that it was a mistake to give up Bikini. But it was too late.
At Rongerik, we have huts with tin roofs and wooden floors, radios and a council house. But it just doesn't seem like home. King Judah.
When we moved to the military base on Kwajalein, life wasn't much better. We were living in tents near a runway. Planes would land very close to us. We had to depend on the U.S. military for everything. Kili wasn't the best choice, but it was our only choice. Tragically, we have been stuck on Kili, waiting to go back to Bikini. Right now, we're going to Kili Island, one of the islands in the southern chains in the Marshall Island. Kili Island is an isolated island with no lagoon. About an hour flight from Majuro, and there's no lagoon, only 3/4 of a mile wide and 3/4 of a mile long. Very, very limited resources.
Welcome back.
Yahweh, one more. Yahweh.
Welcome back.
Yahweh. I live on Kili with my family.
On whole island, we ate fish. Here she is too big. Most times, even strong boats are afraid to land. When big waves come in, we say Kili, just like a jail. We say it is a prison and hunger and place. King Judah.
On Kili, there's no dock. All the supplies for 100 people in the community have to be unloaded at sea and brought in by boats. Very dangerous work. So this is our channel where we unload cargoes from the bigger boats. We would run several boats out to sea and go to the bigger vessel where they anchor, and we would unload cement and food and supplies. But when there's big waves. I'm talking 8, 10-foot waves. You know how many boats we've crashed into the channel? Yearly, we have an average of 3, 4, 5 crashes. We have no choice. The guys get up again and again. We've had somebody died recently from accident from the big waves here in the channel. Of course, we try to make sure that we can live, we can survive. Try to survive daily and meet the daily obstacles. So this is our power plant. We have 3 engine generators here. We spend $935,000 a year on fuel only here on Kili. Most of our traditional ways are lost because the seas are dangerous. We were masters of the sea. Now there's nobody here. On Kili to teach us how to carve our traditional boats. I mean, the elders are gone. My grandfathers that came from Bikini, they did carve their canoes here. And they knew how to sail them. We have some elders, but they are also dying. No medical insurance and no health benefit. Okay, stay on the island, and when you die, good luck. God bless you and have a safe journey. Thank you for science and for the good of all mankind. Here, give it to us. Thank you. Your island is poison.
I think what strikes me is just how much of the culture is lagoon-centered. Everything from accessing the fish to teaching people how to sail canoes. And so when you move people from the whole atoll system that's built around the lagoon, like all the houses are on the inside facing the lagoon, because the lagoon is the place of calm, it's the place of food, it's the place of interconnectivity across the atoll. And so when you're on a single island and you just have the heavy ocean waves there, it creates a dangerous situation.
Bikini has 23 islands. It's the second biggest lagoon in the Marshall Island, abundant with fish and clams and turtles and birds, coconuts, and you can name it. At least my grandfathers, when they talk about their homeland, they would cry over it. And they said that they couldn't wait to go back to it. But they died waiting and waiting. We cannot go back to Bikini because it's radiated. It's not safe to eat the food there. I mean, the U.S. government promised that they will take care of the people of Bikini forever. Years later, we're still on this isolated island with limited resources. It's like taking away the people from their land and put them on a rock and then just let them stay there and not returning them back. Until when? And I think it's my responsibility to take action now in this government, this administration, and tell the world and try to convince the U.S. Congress to reconsider their decisions and allocate more funding to our people. One of my grandfathers saying, if the U.S. government are not wanting to listen to us, tell them to come and tie our feet and tie our hands and take us to the middle of the ocean and drop us with a big rock so we can die drowning. It is better than living on this isolated rock and not on Bikini.
Truman's dramatic announcement that Russia had the atom secret caused state departments all over the world to stir.
Run, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but...
After Operation Crossroads, the world went nuclear. Just like the Americans, other superpowers exploited remote regions of the Earth to test their weapons.
I feel like a soldier until the threat is gone. And if they drop the atomic bomb, it's gonna fall down and dip on. But me, I'm going to be moving, make room, I want to pass. I'm going to show the spaceship an awful lot of class. I'm going to run, run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Oh, run like a son of a gun.
The biggest was equivalent to 10 times all of the explosives used in World War II.
At the Sahara Proving Grounds near Regan, France tests her second nuclear bomb.
Talk about atomic submarines and the guidal missiles too. If they can do 1,000 RPMs, then I can do that too. Oh, I'm gonna run like a son of a gun. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm really going to run. Now I'm going hard like an...
In the Australian desert, 400 miles from the nearest city, radiation detection devices are put in place as 0 hour approaches, and cameramen focus on the tower for the big blast. There she goes.
Once again, Bikini Atoll becomes the scene of the most dramatic nuclear explosion of all. For days, the target center and observation posts buzz with activity as weather planes circle the entire blast area, waiting for the most ideal conditions that will prevent disastrous radioactive fallout. the most difficult problem that must be solved in the Titanic blast. Once again, weather planes make a last-minute check.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A brilliance of 500 suns lights hundreds of miles of the Pacific, and the force of 1,000,000 tons of TNT is released. "15 seconds later, the light is still unbearable. Observers may well squint, for they may have witnessed a prelude to world destruction."
For the day of shot number 1, the meteorologists had predicted a wind condition which should have carried the fallout to the north of the group of small atolls lying to the east of Bikini. The survey aircraft carefully searched the area and reported no shipping. The shot was fired. The wind failed to follow the predictions, but shifted south of that line, and the little islands of Rongerik, and Uterik were in the edge of the path of the fallout.
Menin kokure kanege imeji chalawa lamna ko meneo e chion menin kokure a kina jaje tayo ibat darwata mainu mane meongor pada welgin chedarani chedawa e minute ilagane elim lagorani ulo anwayo eje yalo nai beni kuilo wayo ebar chion menina pulak Imkin am jaji kage ken yalo ulan wayo kenar pilo kom kana tinglang mga remeo para ino cakar buku rabar buku takan yalo inem ikionian menoko.
Although fallout was studied in the classic way, the high yield plus a wind factor caused contamination of distant populated atolls, providing a completely new source of study on these effects and showing graphically the tremendous area of contamination from a high yield surface burst.
The U.S. weather folks who were working at the time knew that the winds were headed towards an inhabited atoll, and they knew that the power of this test would carry radiation that far. And the U.S. government purposely decided not to relocate that community before detonating the test.
The people testing these bombs knew that the people of the Marshalls depend entirely on rainwater for their drinking water. There are no rivers or well waters that you can drink in the northern Marshalls. Yet no warning was given that rainwater would become contaminated after these shots.
They waited 3 days to evacuate Rongerik. 3 days is a long time when your atoll is irradiated.
The 66 Marshallese evacuated by destroyer arrived late in the evening of March the 3rd. These individuals had taken numerous showers and prolonged washings with saltwater sprays while aboard the destroyer. Clothing was not removed for showers and washing. Robert Sharp, U.S. Navy.
Changes in the average wind vector as the falling dust moves across country can cause major distortion of the fallout pattern, could blanket large segments of population. And note that inside this 450 Roentgen border, the dose accumulated by H plus 50 hours climbs quickly to 100% lethal for exposed humans.
Project 4.1 was a biomedical experiment to understand the effects of radiation on human beings, so that if the U.S. troops were to be exposed to radiation, or if the American public was to be exposed to radiation from Soviet or other threat, then the U.S. military would better understand what radiation would do to the people who are exposed. The Marshallese were essentially the guinea pigs for the U.S. military to know what radiation does to people.
The most highly contaminated areas of the body were the head and hair and areas of skin not protected by clothing.
I had Marshallese tell me that they had burns from the radiation that went through their skin all the way down to their bones, and they were in agony, just sheer agony. And when they were put into the Project 4.1 and they were with a doctor, the doctors took photographs of them. They didn't give them any pain relief. The idea was not to treat or assist in the healing of the patients. It was to document what the radiation does.
The exposure of these individuals afforded a unique opportunity to study the effects of radiation in man.
A full month after the event, the medical staff on Kwajalein have advised us that they anticipate no illness, barring, of course, diseases which may be hereafter contracted. The result which the scientists at Los Alamos and Livermore had hoped to obtain from these two tests were fully realized. An enormous potential has been added to our military posture by what we have learned.
And so the US government enrolled the people who were exposed to radiation from Bravo in this top secret medical program without explaining what the program is, without asking for consent from many of the people.
Despite the Bravo disaster, the US accelerated testing in the Marshall Islands.
Redwing, the sixth series of nuclear tests conducted in the Pacific Proving Ground, was nearly 3 times the magnitude of that of any previous one.
Redwing was a 17-shot operation, the most ambitious ever conducted at the Eniwetok Proving Ground.
And during all those years that I was here for school, they never taught us anything about nuclear, except for the week right before March 1st. And March 1st, 1954 was when they detonated the Bravo shot. And then it wasn't until I got to college when I started doing research for myself, because I figured that was the only way that I could share our story. I mean, if the professors at college won't teach it, then who's gonna teach it if I won't?
From 1946 to 1958, the US conducted 67 atmospheric nuclear weapons tests in the Marshall Islands. Each of the tests was above ground. Each of the tests was to design as much local fallout from the radiation as possible so that the US government could essentially create a laboratory out there.
I go out to these schools and I ask the students how many bombs were tested in Bikini and Eniwetok, and they shout 7, 4, 9. Nobody really knows that there was 67 tests that were tested.
The cost of Redwing was on the order of $160 million. This is the price paid for testing operations necessary for the advancement of nuclear weapons and conducted in a remote area of the Pacific to provide the ultimate in safety factors.
All Marshallese and Americans who were exposed to radiation are now, fortunately, restored to health. No person has ever been lost or even seriously injured. No homes have ever been destroyed. And now for the question of continuing our nuclear tests in the Marshall Islands, which were selected only because there is no other place in the world over which the United States has jurisdiction where certain experiments could be successfully conducted with less danger. It must be clear to all, except those who wish to curry favor with the communists, that we have no choice. We must continue to do our best to produce devices which will prevent the free world from being overrun by the communists.
Nevada, USA. This is the valley where the giant mushrooms grow. More atomic bombs have been exploded on these few hundred square miles of desert than on any other spot on the globe. Little bomb. Big bomb. bursts. And high bursts. Within the last 2 years, 20 of these colossal blasts have echoed across the great barren stretches of the Southwest.
The destruction and devastation from testing massive nuclear bombs was conveniently hidden far off in the Pacific. The U.S. saved the smaller, less lethal bombs for the Nevada proving grounds. Near Ground Zero, precautions were taken. But outside that region was another story.
640 square miles of desert and mountains, 65 miles northwest from Las Vegas, set in some of the loneliest acres the world has ever seen.
We've been here for 25,000 years. We have northern Shoshone, eastern Shoshone, Goshute Shoshone, western Shoshone, and Shoshone Bannock. We are actually, in our own language, Nua, the people. Our turquoise was found in the eyes of the Aztec and Maya kings in their burials. Our identity is the land. Our identity is our relationship with that land, our medicine, our plants, our animals. To say that we're the most bombed nation on Earth is accurate because of the 928 weapons tests on our homeland.
Operation Q, the atomic test program of the Federal Civil Defense Administration, as seen by June Cowan, reporter.
Here at the Atomic Energy Commission's Nevada test site, I covered the story of Operation Q, a program to test the effects of an atomic blast upon the things we use in our everyday lives.
We begin with the question of shelter, for shelter might save our lives if we were far enough away from Ground Zero.
I was anxious to learn all I could about the various types of houses to be tested.
5 types are prepared for exposure to the blast and heat of this atomic explosion. Through the cooperation of the furniture and appliance industries, household furnishings were installed in the houses. Mannequin families supplied by private industry are to represent Mr. and Mrs. America.
Interior home furnishings donated by industry are complete in every detail. Naturally, I was very interested in preparations for the testing of textiles and synthetic fabrics. I was especially interested in the food test program. Canned and packaged foods are to be tested. As a mother and housewife, this appealed to me. Would food in the average home be safe to eat after a blast?
The exposure pathways that the Shoshone people have experienced are unique to us because of our lifestyle, which is different than the non-indigenous people. We ate rabbit, we ate deer, antelope, harvested pine nuts, and gathered other medicines that we use. We ate the whole animal, including the thyroid, and this would have increased our risk of exposure significantly as opposed to other Americans who went to the store, lived in houses that were well constructed and maintained. My Uncle Philip, his throat fell out. And then my grandfather, his skin fell off. It got hard, came up his arm. My first cousin had twin daughters. They both died at 11 years old from childhood leukemia.
On the silent desert, the test objects waited.
H minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Weather conditions must be right for test purposes and air operations, and from the standpoint of safety. The next day, after 0 hour, we see the reason for this concentration on the weather job. we see its relation to the huge fact which remains after every nuclear detonation. The atomic cloud, the towering, angry ghost of the fireball.
Most of our mountain ranges run north to south. And so the fallout would come straight up this way into our community.
The atomic cloud, like a giant vacuum cleaner, has sucked up dirt and debris from the Earth and is full of radioactive particles. Is it dangerous? Yes, right now it is. You wouldn't want to go into it, but neither would you deliberately walk into a blazing fire. You have to use common sense.
The fallout came and it rained. It rained in North Dakota. The cows ate the grass. They milked the cows and they shipped it to the inner cities. And it just doesn't end at the border there. And the fallout maps that were produced by the National Cancer Institute in 1997 show the radiation stopping at the northern border of the United States. But the radiation, in fact, went further and around the world.
Cold War testing has left a legacy of environmental contamination and little accountability. Communities in the United States Southwest fight for compensation and cleanup, as do the people in the Australian outback. And forgotten places in Kazakhstan, French Polynesia, and Algeria.
رانا منسية القضية هذه تماما، منسية تماما. نحبوا المسؤولين تاوعنا الله يعمل مولانا ينصرهم في الوقت الحاضر ينوضوا يقوموا بالصح ويحاسبوا فرنسا اللي راهي دارت أكبر جريمة في العالم.
The Cold War meant big business, and the cleanup after it is shaping up to be even more profitable. Port Hope was built around a plant that processed uranium, the fuel used in US nuclear bombs. Today, it's in the midst of the largest land remediation project in Canadian history.
We're finally at the stage where I can say that the cleanup of low-level radioactive waste in Port Hope will begin soon, with funding of $1.28 billion. An estimated 1.7 million cubic meters of contaminated soil will be dug up, trucked, and stored in new state-of-the-art long-term management facilities.
In the US, the government's environmental management program has already spent decades and $164 billion on cleanup. And some companies are trying to profit from it, mostly using taxpayer money. And that doesn't include dealing with the tens of thousands of barrels of nuclear waste dumped at sea off the coast of New York and California. But don't worry, the US didn't dump it all there. They sent a bunch to the Marshall Islands to take care of.
When the United States was done with the nuclear testing in the Marshall Islands, the United States bulldozed all of the topsoil, all of the trees, everything that was left after the detonations into one of the craters that was left behind from one of the nuclear tests, mixed with cement and capped and left there. So inside of that nuclear waste storage facility is plutonium. Plutonium has a half-life of 24,000 years. The Marshallese people and government don't have the money and don't have the knowledge on how to take care of and manage a nuclear waste storage facility. But now the US says that the Marshall Islands owns that facility. The US government won't import what's in this facility back into the United States because now the Marshall Islands is a foreign country and it's illegal to accept imported nuclear waste. So it stays there. And look how close it is to the Pacific Ocean, all the way around it. The seas are rising. It seems pretty inevitable that that facility is headed for the Pacific Ocean. That's not just a problem for the Marshallese.
It has been greatly satisfying to my fellow commissioners and me to take part in the decision announced by President Johnson to return the Bikinians to their atoll. It has been just over 10 years since the last nuclear test took place at Bikini on July 22nd, 1958. The intervening years have brought remarkable recovery on the islands, as AEC-sponsored research teams noted in both 1964 and 1967. The team which visited the atoll in 1967 included radiological and health physicist and marine biologist, a tropical agriculturalist, an anthropologist, and representatives of the Pacific Islands Trust territories of the Department of the Interior. 8 of the most highly qualified experts available were asked to review the survey material. After meeting with the members of the survey team and examining their reports, these consultants reached the unanimous conclusion that it would be radiologically safe to allow the Bikini people to return to their home atoll. While Bikini is best known as a weapons testing site, it has also contributed significantly to man's knowledge of the long-term effects of radiation on an environment. But before it was either a proving ground or a laboratory, Bikini was a homeland. Dr. Glenn T. Seaborg.
We had hoped that small resettlement in the 1970s would eventually lead to the community moving back to Bikini. Again, we were lied to, used as an experiment. Bikini was unfit for humans to live on. Food and water was poisoned by radiation.
The Bikinians weren't the only ones stuck on irradiated land. Remember Rongerik? Showered by radiation after the Bravo shot in the 1950s, it was resettled just a few years later.
So the US government was coming every 6 months to check the blood levels, to check the platelet levels, to track the amount of radiation. And the US was monitoring, yes, these bodies are collecting more and more radiation, to the point that, the people from Bikini Atoll had ingested more cesium than any human population known on this planet to this day. And the US was tracking these increases and studying it, and knowing that the radiation was harmful, but that harm to the Marshallese was not as important as securing the military information that came from this.
Part of studying a population for impacts also requires a control population. And this is where things become very dark and sad for the Marshallese people, where a control population was submitted to experimentation so that there could be some comparisons made and some studies made. But I think we have to look and see who was in charge of this, and it was the Brookhaven National Laboratory in the US. And I mean, just on the face of it, it doesn't make sense for a laboratory to be in charge of healthcare.
It became apparent that significant thyroid irradiation had occurred from radioiodines. Calculations indicated that the radioiodine dose to the adult thyroid gland was about 160 rads. The smaller child's gland received 700 to 1,400 rads.
The children on the island ingested the contaminated water, also ate the food which had been contaminated, and also inhaled some contaminated radioactive material.
In the adult exposed group, 4 people had developed lesions, 2 cancer of the thyroid. 18 patients were then returned to Brookhaven National Laboratory for further examinations and thyroidectomies. 3 of those were discovered to have cancer, but all proved to be of low-grade malignancy with localized metastases. All of those who were operated on recovered satisfactorily without any evidence of extension of the disease.
2 minutes should be enough on most of the people.
The 1968 analysis tragically underestimated the radiation contamination by a factor of 100, so that residents who returned to the atoll wound up leaving by 1978.
Bikini is like a relative to us, like a father or a mother or a sister or a brother. Perhaps most like a child conceived from our own flesh and blood. And then, to us, that child was gone, buried and dead.
And our ancestors died on that rock. That's what the U.S. said here. Stay on the rock.
With their land contaminated and regions impoverished, many Marshallese are leaving for a better life in the United States. For those staying, they face an even greater threat.
The waves are getting closer, and that means our island is getting eaten bit by bit. And it's just scary, you know? We were just sleeping one day and the whole island just cracked in half. That would be miserable.
As you can see right here, the tree right there at the shoreline, it's almost fall down now. But back in like 15, 20 years ago, there was also trees at the back of that tree. So we used to tell stories and have all these kids come and eat their lunch there. But right now you can see it's all filled up with rocks. And the last tree standing here is almost fall down now. So it's like 15 or 20 years ago. And the shoreline is almost gone. And I hope the sea level is really coming up. And maybe some days we will never see this building standing here anymore. So we believe that we're really affected by this climate change and the sea level rise.
They're trying to patch the vulnerable area where the water comes in land when we have sea rise level. And so we're trying to patch this area up just temporarily, hoping that we can get some funding to make a seawall. In this time of climate change and global warming, it does really affect us. During the months of January and February, it causes flooding to go 3/4 of the island, while we have a large wave pounding the island. And then kills all the crabs.
It makes me sad that I cannot stop these waves from coming, because the water is our life, it's our way of life. You know, we grew up surrounded by water, and to have the water coming in and just ruining their homes and ruining their lands. I mean, the water would come in and it would take all the trash in the ocean and just throw it on their property. And it makes me feel helpless, because I cannot do anything to stop the water. We cannot do anything to stop the water. Only the big polluters can, and it's them that could do something about it.
Atoll life is not easy. It's a very harsh environment. Yet Marshallese people have thrived in this environment for centuries. So while the U.S. nuclear testing program created victims, it also strengthened resolve and strengthened resilience of Marshallese people. And so we wanted to be very clear that while we were still addressing harms and impact and damages and injuries, it didn't make us victims. It wasn't something, a way that we wanted to identify ourselves, that we are resilient. We're still here and we're still fighting for justice.
Greetings on this historic occasion to our friends in Micronesia. For many years, a very special relationship has existed between the United States and the people of the Trust Territory. Under the trusteeship, we've come to know and respect you as members of our American family. And now, as happens to all families, members grow up and leave home. I want you to know that we wish you all the best as you assume full responsibility for your domestic affairs and foreign relations. As you chart your own course for economic development and as you take up your new status in the world as a sovereign nation, we look forward to continuing our close relationship with you in your new status. But you'll always be family to us.
The flag of Marshall Islands.
In 1986, the Compact of Free Association between the Republic of the Marshall Islands and the U.S. came into effect. In addition to providing U.S. financial support, it also established a nuclear claims tribunal to review claims and issue monetary awards for health and environmental damages caused by the nuclear testing program. The compact also gave Marshallese the right to live and work in the U.S. without a visa.
I grew up in Metro, Marshall Island. I moved here 2002. Reason why we moved here, we wanted to bring our kids to school. The cultures in Marshall Island is not like here. It's way different than Marshall Island.
There's a lot of Marshallese in Spokane, Washington, Salem, Oregon. There's now Marshallese communities in Iowa, Ohio. I would love to go back home. Home is home. It's no place like home. But you know, I'm kind of realistic too, and I've been home a few times, and I know it's changed a lot. I think the future is probably, you know, more Marshallese will come here, and the U.S. has got to deal with us. They got to take care of us for whatever they did to us. I think part of my job is to make that happen. Let people know the U.S. owe a lot of debt to the Marshallese.
If you really go back and look at some of the photos of our ancestors, some of the most healthy people you would ever see, with rarely any body fat that you can see on them. They basically toil the land. They went fishing all the time. There's no refrigeration. So everything was fresh. You got your fresh breadfruit, and you got your papayas and your taros. After the nuclear weapons testing program in the islands, we were told that it was safer for us to eat all these preserved canned goods that were coming from the United States, so we don't eat the radioactive materials in our food crops. If you look at the food sources now, the typical Marshallese diet is the Spam and the corned beef and the chicken in a can and all the vegetables in a can. The chronic conditions that we've developed over the years, prevalence of diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, heart disease, a large part has to do with the diet. Marshallese have high rates of different kind of cancers. in the islands as well as in the States. You know, one of the leading causes of deaths back in the islands is cancer, right? And whether it's breast cancer, whether it's uterine cancer, or skin cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, and many of them are younger people. So young people getting advanced cancers, you know, it's a red flag. I believe that many of the cancers that our Marshallese population have today are from the radiation or the nuclear weapons testing program that occurred back in the islands back in the 40s and 50s.
Mayor Jebus and his council arrive in Springdale, Arkansas, on their way to meet Congresswoman Katie Porter in Washington, D.C.
From 1946 to 1958, the United States conducted 67 nuclear tests in the Marshall Islands. We deceived the Marshallese, using them as guinea pigs to study the effects of radiation. We turned ancestral lands into dumping grounds for nuclear waste. And we still haven't done the bare minimum to make this right. We established a tribunal for compensation, but provided less than 10% of the money owed. We don't even translate environmental studies into Marshallese.
Welcome to Chickentail. Good morning. Yeah. You guys know the senator, my brother, was Speaker of the Marshall Islands. I came to the United States in 1989. My mom and dad wanted me to go somewhere just to go get an education. Just learn something. Hey, get out, go. You're not going to do anything here on the island. And my father, the kind of guy that really sees the future. So he just wanted me to go somewhere.
Open.
Hello. Yahweh. You know, Manor.
Wow. It's been a while.
Nathan was a good mother figure to us. Me and Nixon and my other cousin that live in Springfield. When we first came into Springfield in 96, we were not knowing where we were going. So there was like 30 of us living under their house for like 2 weeks. 3, 4, 5 families, including 7, 8 of us coming from the Marshall Islands trying to find a new or a place to stay.
Oh, this is one of those days in Reed, you know. We were barbecuing every Sunday. We would back the cars and we will go to Reed.
45 minutes from here.
Reed, Missouri. Look at Anderson, he was so skinny. He didn't go to college. He went to high school, and then you know, from a factory worker to a mayor. I was going, wow! I'm so proud of him.
I didn't want to become a mayor. I want to be a baseball player. Yeah, out of mind. When you are visiting family members, or if they visit you, we will gather together and sing one song. And we want to show respect and show appreciation.
They're my sons, I call them. They're my sons, you know, all of them. I feel like a celebrity.
What, llegaron? Por what? Okay, I think we can go. The church. A lot of churches here. You know, back in the days, in the 90s, when they were starting to come here, there was only one church. The religion does not change. The more they're away from their homeland, and it seems like the more they go to church. Back home, the church is also strong. I guess the faith is what keeps them going.
Like here in the Deep South, it's the Bible Belt. So many churches, and these are almost like cemetery to the Marshallese people. Marshallese are church goers. So when the people here start knowing that we are church goers and we are legal here, and what happened in the Marshall Islands, and they start embracing us and welcoming us here.
If I don't go to church, I feel that God is looking at me. And I'm afraid, oh man, how I can be successful in my vision to take my people to their promised land. After 76 years, they live in exile. I cannot get there because I myself do not believe. So my behavior and my thoughts and my acts are important to my faith. First thing our ancestors brought from Bikini was their church. Relocating from Bikini in 1946 to Rongerik, first thing they take is the wooden part of their church so they can rebuild in Rongerik. Begin Kili. Your son, daughter of who?
Arrogant.
You know, one of our cousins. So she's our niece.
I want to go back to the island. I miss the ocean, the food. I miss living there.
By the late 2000s, the Nuclear Claims Tribunal had issued property damage awards for Bikini, Eniwetok, Utrecht, and Rongerik atolls totaling close to $2.3 billion. Of that, just under $4 million has been paid out to Eniwetok and Bikini. Nothing has been paid to Utrecht and Rongerik. At least 10 more claims from 10 other atolls are pending. The Nuclear Claims Tribunal suspended payments in 2009. By law, it still remains open to receive claims, but it's not operating due to a lack of funding. The economic provisions of the compact are set to expire in 2023. Meanwhile, the lease on the U.S. military base in Kwajalein Atoll, where the U.S. tests ICBMs, is signed through 2066.
The island of Kwajalein in the Pacific, where an anti-ballistic missile system is being perfected, whose job will be to guard against any possible nuclear attack from communist China.
We still live in a war zone.
It's not the first time for Bikini and delegation to come to Washington, D.C. I'm the 4th senator. Mayor is the 5th, 6th mayor. All we want is our fair share. And I don't know why they can't reconcile with us. It's just funny that we have to keep coming back, try to talk to people, congressmen, senators.
China is opening their hand to us. They want us to give Bikini to them, to take care of the people of Bikini. This was over 2-3 years ago. But because we still want to continue to wait for the promise that was made in the 1946 to our people. And hopefully, this is it. If it's not, then when? We travel over 8,000 miles just so we can see Kili Porter, not knowing what can happen.
Traditionally, the representatives of the individual atolls have gone directly to the U.S. government. So Mayor Jibas is the mayor of the Bikini Atoll, and so the local governments work with the national government.
Thank you guys for coming. Hello, how are you?
We really chose to have that meeting with Kili Porter because she's one of a kind that really understand what's going on, and she's someone who really pushes Congress to address our issues. Here's your crown.
Oh, yes, this one is colorful.
There's your crown.
And these are my favorite colors. Did you know that?
You're going from a congresswoman to a queen now.
I don't know about that, but
First thing we would want to ask is that we can get infrastructure works into our island, dock and runway and funding for power plant, new power plant.
I'm their representative here, and I always have my ear to the ground, and I still don't think State Department is with us yet. We want them to listen, but also try to resolve these nuclear issues, because all of those issues are really interrupting their culture, their traditions, and if that's not addressed in this particular go around with the compact, I think the people will be very, very frustrated, not to even mention that they don't have enough resources to survive on Kili and other places that they are. They live like as subhumans, here and in the Marshall Islands.
I don't think state has fully gotten the message yet.
Yeah, that's
but
what
I
I
think
get.
Ambassador Yoon
I hope so.
is going to help lead state
Yeah, that's
to
it.
he's going to reset. So I just encourage you, we're going to hold everybody accountable to negotiate and to listen and to be in good faith. But I think that Ambassador Yoon is starting in a much better place. And we fought really hard to the top to get someone like that. So he's still listening, he's still learning, but I think he's setting off on this process with a much better mindset and a much better place. And I'm hopeful that the compact negotiations will be much more productive. I don't think we're there, but I think we have a path now that we did not have before. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Actually, I unfortunately cannot wear this to my hearing, but I really think it would send the right message to the bad guys, don't you? So I will take this back, but thank you so much.
All right. Jacob, thank you.
Sir, thank you. Good luck the rest of the week, gentlemen. Thank you for traveling.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Good job. We'll be meeting with other staffers and members of Congress to relay the same message tomorrow and the next day. Hello, sir.
Oh, welcome, please.
Thank you.
I'm Ian, this is Deborah Reed.
Anderson, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Good to see you. Ian, good to see you. Hello, Ian. Good to see you. It's good to see you as well.
They did the same thing here in the U.S. I mean, what do they call the U.S. now? With indigenous peoples of this country, you know, the original, you know, nations. Just moved them where they wanted to move them, and take the best lands and do what they wanted to do. So, and they felt that that was the place to do their experience with the Bikini Islands and just, you know, blow it all up, you know.
And they moved us to reservations. Really, they're prison camps because you couldn't speak your language, you couldn't do your ceremonies.
They took soil from Nevada, radiated soil, shipped it to the Marshall Islands.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And I put it in Eniwetok, in one of the islands they used to bomb, in a crater that was caused by a nuclear explosion.
We want our land back.
Yeah. Come and get it.
They've stolen land. Now, you know, we talk about stolen land, all that's stolen land.
You see these people in this city here? They have their motorcycles and carts and grinders and trucks, and they go out into the desert here and they kick up dust. My grandfather always said, don't kick up dust. And I understand now why he said that, because there's the resuspension. The radiation's out there. Pauline, this is Mayor Anderson.
Okay.
Jabas.
Hello.
And the KBE Council of the Marshall Islands. They came to meet us, and they have similar experience with the nuclear weapons in their country, which the United States has contaminated. They are coming to visit us and share stories about the, weapons testing, the bomb testing.
So what do they want to know?
Well, it's very privileged to meet you. In our island, we only have one or two of our elders that are survivors experiencing the atomic testing in the 40s that the U.S. did to our island. So to be here to meet you is overwhelming because you're one of the survivors that have been there and seen it all.
Due to the testing?
Due to the testing. And we are going through the same similar problem after the testing.
With the government?
With the U.S. government. We're trying to seek their attention and support. There's 147 of our grandmothers and grandfathers that relocated from our homeland in 1946 from their homeland to another island. Today there's only a few of them left. We are grateful to also learn of your story and to know that you're also alive today.
Well, our people wasn't all located just in one area. You know, they were miles and miles and miles apart, and even hundreds of miles apart that got affected by it. We weren't aware of what was going on. we could see all the clouds going up in the air from here. I don't like to dwell in the past, you know. What has been done is done. That's how I was taught to believe. And like they say, you know, you don't forget, but you can forgive. And that's what I try to do with the United States government.
I like the word, it's powerful. Forgive. We will forgive. But we will not forget.
Yeah, you know, the situation that we're in with all the climatic change and all that. I think an awful lot of that, you know. What am I going to do? What is your elevation?
It's 3 feet at the max.
The island?
Just 3 feet.
Yeah.
Above
sea level?
Yeah, 3 feet above sea level. 3 feet, wow.
Oh, we're below.
Yeah. That's
Scary. But it helps, you know, it helps. You know, to be respectful and to accept what's going on and to do what you can do, you know, for yourself and for Mother Earth.
It's hard to believe that after decades of testing death and destruction, the world is once again on the brink of nuclear war.
1, be calm. 2, get under shelter. 3, don't run. Obey your air raid warden.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать нам, а тем более создать угрозы для нашей страны, для нашего народа, должны знать, что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do we do?
Unfortunately, this isn't a comedy sketch. It's an actual public service announcement released by New York City officials in 2022.
Windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. All right? You've got this. You've got this. You've got this.
What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
On a peaceful tropical island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean lives a community that's been ravaged by nuclear weapons. Hostages of history and a microcosm of where the world is headed. Their story could one day be our story, too.
I mean, think about if it happens to you, your family and your country, what would you do?
Dim the lights, wait for information. Most of all, obey your air raid warden.
Stop the panic, don't get in a huff. Our aim today is to call their bluff. Follow these rules and that is enough. Obey your